How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another Martian Report. In today's report, I'm going to be going over something kind of old, an old video from back in 2018, and it's of the John Oliver on Last Week Tonight, where he's talking about cryptocurrencies. It was basically just like an educational piece for people who knew nothing about cryptocurrency as of March 2018, which is, I guess still most people, even today, they don't know actually a lot about crypto. But this video, I got about halfway through it, and at this point, just a few seconds after where we're at right here in the video, John makes a statement. He talks about Dogecoin, and I'm gonna let you listen to what he says, and I'm gonna get into a tangent of mine that I have right now that just came to me while listening to this, and it's to speak to just how little most people actually understand about money. And John, I think, without realizing it, or perhaps he does, depending on where you sit about like how the mainstream frames things for you, maybe he does understand what he's actually doing, providing misinformation. But to be less cynical, we'll say he doesn't actually realize what he's talking about. So let's listen real quick and we'll get into it.
The point is, many people are buying coins for no reason other than that other people are buying them. And this mania has gotten to the point where even a coin started as a complete joke like Dogecoin can rocket up in value.
It's named after an internet meme that was popular at the time, a photo of Shiba Inu with colourful comments written in broken English around it, as you can see. Now, Dogecoin's total market value has almost doubled since the start of this year to over $2 billion. There appear to be no obvious reasons for this.
Yeah, that's because there were no obvious reasons.
And I want to stop right there, because this statement is absolutely false. And what Dogecoin actually shows, what it actually should symbolize to everybody in the crypto ecosystem, whatever cryptocurrency you are invested in, it should be a beacon to you as to how money works, how value operates in the real world. And John touches on this briefly earlier, but he has at this point backtracked and is instead sort of, to anybody that understands valuation in any market, making an ass of himself. Why did Dogecoin appreciate in value? Because people put faith in this coin. And why did they put faith in a joke coin, in a meme? Because memes actually have societal value. There is an actual value to something as silly, as entertaining as Dogecoin. And that value exists within a word I just said, the entertainment that it provides. Consider who some of the most affluent individuals in society are. Outside of business, it's entertainers, it's athletes, it's comedians, it's people who help you escape the mundanity of your day-to-day life. Entertainment is one of the most underappreciated yet valuable things that exists within human culture, within our economy, because it provides an extremely valuable resource to us, that being the escape from our daily hell, whatever it may be. Stressful day at work, kids being obnoxious and you just need a break from them and to unwind. We all need that. Every single human being on this planet needs to unwind to some degree or another at the end of a long day. Whether that, for some people that means several hours playing video games. Some people it's literally just engaging with a family member or friends for an hour or two because they have a very busy life. But that hour or two provides a very important level of stress relief, right? Now, not trying to get into all the psychology of this, more so just to point out why it is that Dogecoin actually appreciated in value. Because value has nothing to do with why something was created. Why something exists. Value is ascribed, is instilled in something by how society views its existence, how society has deemed its existence as worthwhile or not. This is why you can look at art in the same light, right? Why are some paintings worth so much when they're literally just a black canvas, can sell for $100 million, whereas somebody who's done a beautiful mural of a family is worth nothing, literally worth $1. You can find them on garage sales for 50 cents. Why? It's because we instill value as an individual. It doesn't matter what the artist or creator of that art views that piece as valued at. It matters based upon what the outsider views it as. And when it comes to why I'm making this video, it's really because I kind of had this epiphany while listening to this. I was like, wow, this is so relevant even to today, as far as how people look at this ecosystem. That still, even in Twitter, people debate, and I'm guilty of it, debate which coin's going to survive, which one's going to die, and all this blah blah blah. The reality is, there's going to be a lot of coins that will exist forever, and they will have different stages in their life cycle where maybe they become significantly undervalued from where they are now, and in the future they become infinitely more valuable than they are or ever have been. Dogecoin may have not yet even seen its ultimate all-time high. And sometime in the future it might 1,000x from its previous all-time high, and not based upon any fundamental, but only based upon the mentality of a large enough population of human society to say, oh, remember that meme, nostalgia? Yeah, I'm gonna get one of those because it's funny, and that's all it takes. As long as someone, and that might seem like a very trivial and stupid reason to a lot of people, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter what you or anybody who denies one of these coins' existence thinks. What matters is what another person who has a positive view of it thinks of it, and how positive their view of that is, how much they're willing to pay for something, how much they're willing to take from the total supply because they want to be a meme lord and own half of Dogecoin for the lulz. For the lulz. Oh, I just want it for the lulz, and I got a lot of money, and if I can control a large enough share of the market, then I get to decide the price anyway. So for the lulz, I'm going to be the meme lord. The reality is, valuation is a very complex and not well understood thing, because just like the dollar, I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this back and forth, about why is it that that George Washington's face is worth $1, $1, but Abraham Lincoln's is worth $5 and Andrew Jackson's is worth $20. They're both printed on the same material. They both use the same amount of ink. The only difference is a face and a number in the corner. Why? Why do you trust that? Why do you believe that it carries that value? Why do you accept a $20 bill for payment for a haircut, or for giving somebody a haircut, but not a $1 bill, when they're both printed on the same thing? Why is one of these more valuable to you than the other. It's not based upon the amount of dollars that are in circulation. It's not based upon anything other than your belief that that thing is worth what it's worth compared to other, that Andrew Jackson's face is worth more than George Washington's. It's 100% faith-based. And this is why I've said numerous times on the channel, but I'm really wanting to drive home now, that money is a religion. That no matter what currency you are engaging with in your day-to-day life or investing in the crypto ecosystem, whatever you deem as money, you are deeming as your material religion, because you are putting your faith in that currency being worth the same amount tomorrow or more than it was today when you received it, or yesterday when you received it. And it's that belief system that had enabled Dogecoin to go to a market cap of $2 billion. It wasn't for no reason. It was because of that very fundamental principle of economics, of human psychology, and the religion of money. There is a religion of Dogecoin, just as there's a religion of XRP and Bitcoin. And this is why, the analogy to the tribalism between these cryptocurrencies as holy wars, which actually, I was just getting ready to comment on, but somebody, Bitcoin Meme Hub made a great meme too, right? And it's showing like the how the war will look like between these cryptocurrencies. You know what I'm saying? And obviously this was made by Bitcoin Maxi, because why? Well, Bitcoin, they've got fighter jets and freaking I don't know what model of tank that is, but definitely not no cardboard tank like Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV are driving, and definitely not the spear chucker like Brad Garlinghouse is being painted out as, or Justin's son with his club, but this image embodies exactly what I'm getting at with the Dogecoin. It's about belief. Bitcoin's worth what it is because the Bitcoin community believes it's worth this, and that it shouldn't be worth less than this. And there is consensus reached by the community in a real world trading system where they are buying or selling based upon their belief of what this currency is worth. Nothing else. And so why is XRP, to go to XRP, since this is the primary cryptocurrency we focus on the Martian Report, why is XRP only valued at 20 cents today? It's because that's what you believe it's worth. That's what, and even if it's not what you believe it's worth, it's what the majority of people who are currently holding XRP believe it's worth. Or at least the majority of people who hold the majority of XRP that's in circulation believe it's worth. And until those people are either bought out of their position by people who believe the currency is worth more, or have a change of heart about what they believe the currency is worth and value it higher, the price is not going to appreciate. And so one of these two variables has to change. Either the individual is holding it, or the beliefs of the individual is currently holding it, for that price to change. It's the only way it changes as compared to the US dollar. And to drive this home, let me make this clear. I did a video that still gets a fair number of views. Last year, let's see if I think I got a comment on it recently, about why XRP should be could actually hit $10,000 price point, and I was saying that it's inevitable that XRP will someday be worth 10,000 US dollars. And this guy, Ronson Sovereign, makes a great point. What I was describing is not the appreciation of XRP's value, but the depreciation of the dollar purchasing power, and therefore that making one XRP worth $10,000. But there is something critical to keep in mind in regards to how this mechanistically functions. The only way XRP will ever be worth $10,000, even if there is infinite dollars and the dollar inflates to infinity, the only way XRP appreciates against the dollar is if those people holding dollars, a considerable enough portion of them, actually start buying XRP. It doesn't matter if everybody holding, British pounds or euros or Malaysian ringgit or Chinese yuan. If all of them start buying XRP, guess what? That just means that XRP appreciates against those currencies because those markets are becoming more liquid and have deemed XRP as more valuable against them. Now, obviously, there is a considerable amount of profit that can be made from people who margin trade. That's not the term I'm looking for. Who perform arbitrage? Is that what I'm thinking of? I think it's arbitrage. I'm really bad. Arbitrage, right? Simultaneous. Yeah. So arbitrage. Who perform arbitrage in the market by, say buying XRP for Chinese yuan and then selling it for dollars because the dollar market is, buying XRP with dollars and then selling it for yuan because they think the yuan is overpriced, and then they trade their yuan for dollars and buy more XRP with dollars because you can create profits out of that three-way if XRP is being undervalued in dollars and overvalued in Chinese yuan or euros or one of these other currencies that the market begins to overbuy through that currency, right? However, these things are not these movements aren't symmetrical, and that's because there has to actually be somebody performing that purchase. There has to be somebody making that market. If there's not a market maker pushing the price up in dollars because the yuan is valuing XRP at 10 times the rate that the dollar is valuing it as, then it's not going to happen. Now, in a free market, which cryptocurrency largely is, you will see that, but it will be delayed, and it's highly unlikely to be there will always be some degree of spread across these currency markets until artificial intelligence is the primary driver of all these markets and is performing, quantum, Planck second arbitrage as each individual transaction occurs. It's not going to be instant, and there's always going to be a spread for a trader to make a profit off of. And there will always be manipulation. Always. Manipulation will exist even when in the age where artificial intelligence does take over, because AI systems will compete against each other to trade these prices down, right? So what the key takeaway from this is, since I've gone a little bit off topic here, is that for XRP to hit this $10,000 price point, people have to believe in it. People have to say, when the dollar goes into hyperinflation, it's already going into hyperinflation. Again, we've printed now we have printed $13 trillion over the course of the last 2.5 months. And that $13 trillion is being leveraged by the Fed on 10x leverage at minimum. So that 13 trillion is actually 130 trillion, which is, well, what would that be? $22 trillion was in circulation prior to that. So that's basically a 6x in the available supply of dollars being lent through the economy, through the U.S. economy. or the global economy, I guess, since the dollar is, the global reserve. At least if you look at it through the lens purely of dollars. Obviously, that's not exact because there's euros floating around and yuans, right? Trying to keep it as simple as possible, though. So not exact numbers. Anyways, the point is the dollar is in hyperinflation already. And it's been in hyperinflation arguably since 2008 when we first bailed out the banks, when the federal government first bailed out the banks. And it's only continued. And now it's gone from tens of billions to hundreds of billions to now trillions and tens of trillions. And when you actually look at the leveraged lending or the fractional reserve lending that's taking place, it's actually hundreds of trillions. And so this has occurred over just a decade, that we've gone from tens of billions to hundreds of trillions. That's not one order of magnitude difference. That's 5 orders of magnitude difference in the amount of money being lent into the system, being pumped into the system by the monetary authorities of the world, primarily the Federal Reserve in this case. So why then, despite us watching this happen in the traditional markets, has Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies with finite supplies not already skyrocketed to the moon? Again, I just laid down for you that there is so many more dollars in circulation today than there was just 2 months ago. Order of magnitude more. So why is XRP not 10x'd? Why is Bitcoin not 10x'd? Or more, 60x'd, which would probably be more equivalent to where it should be. It's because the people, the masses, the majority of market participants with some degree of value have not yet lost faith in the traditional system, lost faith in the dollar. And that's what's so important to understand when it comes to how inflation actually works and how appreciation of an asset actually works. So long as there is faith in a system, so long as faith is not lost to the degree to which a participant or the large a large portion of the participants within a financial ecosystem, within a monetary ecosystem, so long as they don't lose faith, that ecosystem is not going into hyperinflation. They can print $1 quadrillion tomorrow. And as long as the people think, well, they're saving the economy, there's a lot of money, I don't understand how much $1 quadrillion is. The reality is nobody listening to this, myself or me speaking, understands how much $1 trillion is. It's such a large amount of money that it's like, I've tried to come up with to quantify it in ways that I could understand, but even still, it's so much that even when you try to split up $1 trillion, just $1 trillion, to figure out what that would mean if it was like divided amongst, say, all of Americans, it still doesn't like resonate with just how much that is, because you're still dealing with such massive numbers. 330 million Americans. That's a lot of people. Who actually understands how many 330 million people is, right? And so the point is, as long as people are able to continue to believe, to continue to be delusional about how stable or how viable or efficient the current monetary system, the fiat monetary system, is for their way of life, as long as they believe that the dollar is going to continue to enable them to live whatever they perceive to be a middle class or sustainable lifestyle, they're going to continue to use the dollar. And until they have some reason to not believe that, they're not going to invest elsewhere. Here's the big catch-22 of this, and why I'm in XRP and not Bitcoin. The masses, as I've said, and I've incentivized you and everybody that follows my channel regularly, as I've stated innumerable times at this point, I don't believe the masses are going to wake up. And there is a caveat to that, right? There is an exception to that. I think that the masses have a potential to wake up, but only when it's too late for them. When they have no money, no means, no value to their name in which they can participate in the great wealth transfer, the great transition of the financial system from a fiat system to a crypto system. And I think we're getting close to that point. I think that there's a reason why Brad Garlinghouse said in December of last year that 2020 will be the year of the digital asset. And he said this before COVID was even a thing. He said this before the markets fell out, when we were still engaged, and there's no even semblance of a crash on the horizon. Everybody thought the bull market was just going to continue for another 50 years. You'll never have another bear market again. It can't ever happen. Which is why I got out of the markets, because obviously that's peak hysteria, peak euphoria. And, you know, I feel like a genius for doing it now, but, you know, in hindsight, really, I just kind of got lucky, because I was saying the same thing in 2018 before the crash that I thought that was it. I was like, oh, it was the end of it, and I was convinced for months after. And even when we started to have the V-shaped recovery, I'm like, no, it's not going to last. And so I was mistaken then, and thankfully I didn't cash out in 2018. I just believed it was the end. But I was watching all this last year, and I became convinced that it was near the end, and so that's why in February I got out. But I digress. The narrative that I think that we're seeing unfold on a global stage is really indicative of where we are as a society in this financial cycle, in the greater financial cycle, in the long debt cycle. And this is something I've touched on in a few other videos. And there's a great video by Ray Dalio who goes into great detail about the short debt cycle and the long debt cycle, and he differentiates between he provides a breakdown of what the real difference is between a recession and a depression. The difference being a recession is a short-term debt cycle going into a downtrend in the market is a recession during a long-term bull trend, or a long-term debt accumulation trend, whereas the depression comes in the long downtrend. And I think that's where we're at right now with crypto. I don't think it's blatantly apparent to us that cryptocurrencies are now in their first true depression. We're not in a short recessionary period with Bitcoin and XRP and whatnot. We're in the first depression phase. Now, I feel almost ironically that this depression phase came when it did, because this ecosystem is very young, right? The first appreciation, the first uptrend came, the first long-term debt accumulation phase, as it were, or appreciation in this case, because cryptocurrency operates was the term. It operates contrary to traditional economics. Traditional economics are based upon debt, whereas cryptocurrency is based upon value. So in the bull cycle, we're accumulating value. In the bear cycle, we're spending our value. We're relinquishing our value. And in the crypto space, this is largely because that value is being either taken out by people who profited off of the first long uptrend, who are now living off of that or investing in their own projects that they are funding off of that, or are a project such as a company such as Ripple, who's using the value of their crypto token to fund the expansion of the XRP ecosystem. And so we are in the long spending market phase, the long downtrend. And so what does that mean as far as price appreciation and when we can expect it? I think that we are, because of the age of the crypto market, right? XRP is now, what, 9 years old? 9 years old. 2013. So sorry, it's almost 8 years old. I think in October it'll be, or in November rather, it'll be 8 years old. So 8 years old, and it has spent since the beginning of 2018 in a bear cycle. And so we've seen almost 2 full years of the almost 8 years of its existence, over 2 years, sorry, of its almost 8 years in a bear trend, in a long-term bear trend. And so we can either postulate one of two things. First, that this is going to be a mirrored trend, so that the bear trend is going to last in equal proportion to the uptrend. So we could still have another 4 years. 2024, XRP is still going to be trending downwards before it finally reverses and goes into its new bull cycle. Or, and I think this is the more realistic way to look at it, we can look at crypto, XRP, and Bitcoin, and the whole ecosystem as in general, and where it's at, and say, okay, well, it's more likely that even though we are still in a downtrend 2 years in, and that even though these cycles, there is a bit of mirroring. If you look back to the late 1800s, early 1900s in the stock market, and compare that, the length of time that the markets were in a bull market before the Great Depression set in, and then how long the Great Depression lasts comparatively, I think it's like what would the fraction work out to be? I think it's like 60% of the time we were in bull market, and then 30%, so 2/3 of the time was spent in a bull market, 1/3 was spent in the bear market. It was like a 50-year bull trend and then a 30-year bear cycle. So almost 2/3 up, 1/3 down. So you can then take that understanding and apply that to crypto, right? Well, if we had 5 to 6 years up, then perhaps we're only going to see if this ecosystem truly is going to appreciate, as most all of us, myself included, believe it will, then we probably still have about 6 months to maybe even a year before the markets decide that the bottom is truly in. Now, is that me saying that there's going to be further a new low set for Bitcoin or XRP? No, not necessarily. It just means that the markets, there's a very good chance that over the next 6 months to a year, that the markets are not going to fluctuate dramatically from where they are. And this can be seen if you look to Great Depression era. It was only about 6 to 7 years of the Great Depression where the market was it was 9 years, I think, that the market was actually in a downward trend, and then it flatlined. And the bottom was in after that, and the markets just, we didn't see a recovery, but we didn't see further bleeding. Most all the damage is already done, and the markets just remained suppressed. And so there's a very good chance that we'll see something similar like that unfold with the crypto market over the next, again, 6 months, year, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 2. Again, I think that that's unlikely, but we should see something like that unfold over the next 6 months to a year. And then going into 2021, and in this, what I'm saying to you, if you follow my channel, you've heard me lay out in less detail this exactly, right? some of my very first videos were talking about the fact that, when I was talking about XRP going to $100 or whatever, I was saying, 2021, that's when I expect us to really see positive momentum come back in. And it wasn't backed up by data back then. It was more of a gut feeling. And now, over a year now, or almost a year, we're almost up to a year of my channel. 3 more days, and we will be celebrating 1 year of the Martian Report. And I appreciate all of you. I'm going to be making a special video for you guys. As I've been saying since I got into YouTube, this market is in a long-term bear market, and that's because it had such an exponential run-up in 2017, 2018, and so everything has to cool off, and we have to establish a bottom and show that the markets are not willing to go lower than whatever price point to instill confidence in investors that, okay, it's now safe to get in because it's not going any lower than that. And so people can then evaluate the inherent risk with the potential returns, right? When you're looking at an investment, you have to be able to evaluate what the true risk is, right? And for most of us in the space who have been in for a long time, we have accepted the risk of, oh, well, whatever we put in, it's probably there's a good chance it'll just go to zero, right? We're really hopeful that it's going to go to these really high numbers, but we also accept that it could go to zero. So when you're talking about, traditional professional investors, that is not a risk that these individuals are willing to accept. That they can't accept it because many of them are not using their own money. They're investing with their clients' money, and so they cannot, in good faith and good conscience, invest in that kind of a market where there is such extreme downside potential. And so until the market proves that it has reached its bottom, and it shows that there is a consistent trend of, okay, return to median, return to norm, then the markets are going to continue to do what they are right now. And that's showing us zero evidence, zero sign of this downtrend being behind us. But again, I think that we really are at the bottom. I think that XRP, it could easily go back down into the 17 cent range, and maybe there is still a new bottom at 10 cents. Or 7, I think that I laid out at one point a potential for. With every passing day, though, I think that 7 cents becomes less and less likely. 10 cents will probably be likely all the way up until the end of this year. And if we don't hit 10 cents by the end of the year, then it's even less likely that it's unlikely we'll even see 10 cents. Maybe we'll see 15 once more in the beginning of 2021. And if we don't see 15 cents by second quarter of 2021, then we probably are going to start to see the price appreciate relatively rapidly in the second quarter of 2021. And this also all lines up with ISO 20022, which is what I believe to be the true catalyst for XRP. Not so much other cryptocurrencies, since I focus primarily on XRP, as everybody knows, so that's where I see everything going. But anyways, we've kind of covered the whole gambit in today's video. It's been a while since I talked about XRP cryptocurrencies. I know a lot of people are like, "Yo, Euro, where you been?" And it's been a rough few months, as I'm sure everybody knows full well for themselves. The news that we've been getting is horrible. Being on lockdown for so long is mentally exhausting, and I've just needed a break from everything. I also need a lot of time. I wanted to take a lot of time away from crypto all the way back in February even, because I needed time to really evaluate my own thoughts on XRP and really distance myself from the echo chamber that we exist within. Because something that I am familiar with, having studied, having gone to college for neuroscience and psychology, is that we are very susceptible, no matter how intelligent you may perceive yourself to be or how much of a critical thinker you may think you are, we are extremely susceptible to confirmation bias. And actually, the smarter you are, the more likely, the more susceptible you are to confirmation bias. This is actually like there's pretty serious literature or around this exact topic. So something that I tend to like to do whenever it comes to anything I believe is take a step back from it and let it just sit inside my mind, in the back of my mind for however long, and see where it goes. And overall this time, even though I've become a little more skeptical of XRP's potential, which I think is healthy, I still maintain a very deep belief that if any cryptocurrency is going to be phenomenally successful over the next 5 years, it's going to be XRP. And if XRP is not successful, then I think the space as a whole is going to die. Like that's how confident I am still, despite staying out of the loop for months, outside of just looking for FUD, every once in a while, just seeing like, oh, is there any bad news? And it's just bullshit securities lawsuits, which we all know is just bogus. And so I'm still just as confident as ever in XRP's future, just as confident as ever that Ripple is a legitimate company and what they're building towards is a globally connected, or a globally connected financial system that has XRP at the center of that system, right? So with that said, I appreciate you guys, especially those of you who stuck around this long into my rant and rambling. I hope you all have had a fantastic week, since I think it's been almost a week since I posted my last video. I might try doing a live stream a little bit later today. We'll see if I have the energy for it, see where my mind's going, but nonetheless, I appreciate all of you, especially those of you who have been with me for so long, because I've gone all over the place with the channel over the last year, and it's really it's still mind-boggling to me to think that I've gotten so many subscribers as I did so quickly. When I first created this channel, my initial goal was to get 10,000 subscribers in my first year, and we hit 10,000 in like my first 6 months, and I was not prepared for that. And the means by which I hit that also kind of broke a lot of my metrics in the channel. So that's another reason why I took a few months away too, is to really kind of like figure out what I want to do with the channel. And I think where I want to go with it, well, we'll talk about more of that in my 1 year video. But I do intend to continue the channel, and I intend to become a lot more engaged with it moving forward, a lot more than I have been over the last few months. So you guys can expect, who appreciate my content, you can expect to see a lot more from me, but also know that it's going to be a lot more differentiated, even than what it has been over the last few weeks or months. And I'm gonna, my goal is to be, just give people more of a window into my life, into who I am as a person, more so than just my obsession with cryptocurrency. And if a lot of people don't like it, then that's fine, so be it. I get that most people will probably only watch my content because they want XRP news, but I think it's a little more important to know, like when it comes to finances and things like this, I feel it's a little better for people to actually have insight into who it is they're listening to, as instead of just what information that person is espousing. Because if you don't know the person that's providing you insight into something that you may consider, that you may be considering investing into, then you're not really getting the full story. It's one reason why a lot of people don't trust mainstream media, because these people are all dolled up and have high production quality with scripts written for them that they're reading off of. They're not actually providing their views. They're just providing whatever a teleprompter tells them to present to you, and and it's very disingenuous, and you don't really know who it is that's writing that script, right? And so I think by taking this approach, it'll, it might not be as good for views or whatever, but I'm over that. And I kind of want to grow a channel of more, so just like-minded individuals in general, and not really care, about whether somebody cares about, or is upset by me being me, right? So thank you guys as always, once again, for tuning in. I'm gonna cut this off here. I'm gonna stop rambling, and I will see all of you guys in my next video, as always, on Mars.